Good afternoon all. This session we will deal with research ethics. So ethics becomes very important for research and we will see what are the principles that we need to follow for a proper research to be done. So what is research ethics? Research ethics refers to the moral principles guiding the conduct of research to ensure integrity and respect for the participants who are going to participate in the research. But why is ethics so very important in research? Because we need to check that the rights, dignity and well-being of the research participants are protected, and it also ensures the credibility and reliability of scientific findings, and also it prevents misconduct and promotes public trust in research. But why did this ethics all come up? Because it has a lot of history behind it. So the first thing that came up was the Nuremberg Code in 1947, which was established the importance of voluntary consent following the World War II atrocities that happened on human subjects. Then came in 1964 the Declaration of Helsinki, which set guidelines for medical research involving human subjects. Followed by that, in 1971, we got the Belmont Report, which emphasized respect for persons, beneficiaries, and justice. So these are the four pillars of medical ethics. First is the autonomy, followed by the beneficence, non-maleficence, and justice. Now let us look into what are the different types into this. Autonomy, that is respect for persons. We need to recognize the autonomy of individuals and protect those with diminished autonomy. So why we need to do that? Because informed consent becomes very important for this, and it manifests as respect. Beneficence, obligation to minimize harm and maximize benefits. We need to do the risk benefit analysis as a critical component of research design. Next comes your justice. We need to see to that there is fair and equitable distribution of research burdens and benefits to the participants. We should not exploit them, and especially the vulnerable populations should be taken care of. The next comes the non-maleficence, which is based on the principle of do no harm, and also we need to ensure that the research process does not intentionally harm any participants. So what is integrity and principlism in research ethics? The quality of being honest and giving strong moral principles that you refuse to change is called integrity. But for principlism, it's a normative ethical framework that is designed for decision making in healthcare. It is common morality approach relying on four mid-level principles, that is autonomy, maleficence, beneficence, and justice. Integrity in research is based on the researcher, and it is important that the researcher takes care of the participant rights and well-being that is protected, and conflicts of interest is maintained, and quality and appropriate reporting of research is done. So integrity in the production of knowledge relates to the research participants through to publication of your research proposal. Integrity of evidence. So how do we get evidence? Ethics requires you to apply findings for best available evidence. Ethics requires you to be truthful in your representation and practice of evidence, and misinterpreting evidence for personal gain is unethical. So integrity as a health professional uses best evidence to minimize error and bias in practice, avoid causing harm, optimize capacity for good, and provide informed and fair choices. So we all know the research process, and it has many steps. So this tells us the different research steps that happens in the research process, starting from identifying the problem until report writing. So now we will look into what are the different in the different steps, what are the research principles that we can follow. Number one, starting with the research idea and research design. While selecting your topic, it should be socially relevant and it should also not avoid causing any harm to the individuals or groups. You should avoid bias. We should ensure that the study design doesn't favor any certain outcomes or populations unless it is justified. Feasibility. Ethical research should be realistic, avoiding overly ambitious projects that could lead to incomplete studies or harm to any participants. And it should also have really good scientific soundness. In the literature review, the ethical issues that we need to look into is to avoid plagiarism and proper citation of sources, avoid misinterpretation of the data that you have, and also honest reporting. We should ensure that all the previous data are presented accurately without just picking only those things that would suit your hypothesis. In recruitment and in consenting. So it is very important that informed consent is got before we start the study using the participants. So voluntary participation becomes very important, where participants must be free to choose to take part in the study without any undue influence, and do a very comprehensive explanation where full details about the research, including the purpose, procedures, risks and benefits, should be disclosed. And continuous process. So informed consent is not just one-time process, it is a continuous process where consent is ongoing and participants should be free to withdraw at any time without any penalty. We also need to maintain confidentiality because we need to protect participants' personal data at all times. And we also need to protect vulnerable populations like pregnant mothers, children and elderly living in homes. So special considerations must be made for groups like these, and with any cognitive impairments we should ensure that they are not exploited. Risk-benefit analysis. A thorough and transparent evaluation of the risks and benefits must be included so that we ensure the participants are safe and well-being are prioritized over the goals of the research or your own objectives. During data collection, what are we supposed to be looking into? So look into the integrity and transparency in data gathering. Use a proper instrument, use a validator tool and train individuals accordingly so that the data collection is done accurately. Then maintaining privacy and confidentiality of the data collected is also very important, so that we protect the identities of the participants and giving fair treatment of to the participants. So all the participants should be treated equitably and no group should be subject to any unnecessary harm or exploitation. Avoid deception. Researchers must avoid using deceptive practices unless it is absolutely necessary, and this should be justified in the ethics committee before you actually take up your study forward. During data analysis, it's so very important that we avoid manipulation of data. There should be honest interpretation. It should be analyzed objectively without altering or cherry picking results to suit preconceived notions or external pressures. Please avoid data fabrication and falsification. This is one of the most serious ethical violations. So any researcher should not create or alter data in any way to suit their own objectives. Avoid selective reporting. It is important that we report all relevant data even if the results are negative or contrary to your hypothesis. We should not report just the positive data that you get from your study. During publication and dissemination, so during what is the ethical consideration that you will have when you want to publish? So please avoid publication bias. Researchers should aim to publish all research, just not positive or favorable outcomes, to maintain scientific integrity. And accurate reporting of methods and results. Transparency is very crucial, including acknowledging study limitations or any deviations from the protocol. Conflict of interest. Researchers should also declare any potential conflicts, that is funding from interested parties that could be any change in the research interpretation. Ethical issues during collaboration with other institutions. So we need to acknowledge contributions. So we need to credit all researchers and contributors and institutions that are involved in the project. Please avoid exploitation. Ensure that all parties, especially junior researchers or collaborators from the disadvantaged regions, are treated fairly and the rights are IPR, that is intellectual property rights, proper handling of data ownership and publishing rights within collaborations ensure fair recognition. What are the long-term responsibilities of the researcher? Please maintain participant confidentiality even after the study concludes. Sharing data responsibly. We should see to that the researcher should make data available only to the scientific community only if it is applicable, while safeguarding the participants' privacy. Follow-up. Sometimes ongoing care or communication is needed if the research affects the participants' well-being or rights. Thank you so much.